Hi, and welcome to Retirement Your Way. I am Debbi Marcum, the president of Retirement Solutions Group, and I'd love to welcome my lovely co host, Jaclyn Gladhill. How are you doing, Jaclyn?
Debbie, I have missed you so much.
Miss you too.
It's so good to finally be back and doing this with you. And honestly, the yellow in the background and everything, it just brings so much happiness. I mean, tell me about your travels lately and just the excitement in your life.
Well, I tell you, it was nice to get away from the cold. We went down to Sarasota, Florida, and just had a lovely, warmer time, and came back to Tennessee last week, and it was nice and warm and beautiful. And then woke up to snow again this morning.
No.
Not gonna stick, but it was well, at least I got a little reprieve from it. But in all honesty, I'm ready for spring. So
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
know.
the daffodils are in full bloom here. So Tennessee thinks it's supposed to be spring.
Wow. So they're blooming under the snow.
Well, we didn't have enough snow to really worry about. Just kind of flurries. It was pretty this morning, and then it dissipated, and then it snowed again about 10 o'clock today. But it's been warm enough here; it's not going to stick. It's not going to be an issue. But yeah, I feel like a yo-yo between the cold, the warm, the cold.
At least you are down to one house now and you don't have
Yes,
to
yes,
physically move to the warm, the cold, the warm, the cold.
that makes me very happy as well.
Oh, well, it's great to be back and I nothing's really changed in my life since the last time we did it, but
That's quite
uh
all right. You have a lovely life.
yeah. Yes, it's just, still the wedding planning and my best friend is also getting married a month before me.
Well, how exciting!
So, it's been a lot for the both of us because we sat down and we had dinner together, I don't know, a few months ago, and we both said, "We want each other to be our maid of honors, but how are we going to do that when we're planning our own wedding?"
I agree.
So, we agreed to it, so now we're both each other's maid of honors and we're the brides, all within a month of each other. So, it's
That's
gonna be
great.
fun, it's a lot of chaos, but trying to plan around each other, it's kinda nice
That is
because
kinda nice.
now
Well,
we're
we
in
just
charge.
discovered that, 2 of my great nieces are expecting 19 days apart. And
Wow!
ironically, my sisters had done exactly the same thing years and years ago. So, apparently, there's a tendency in our family to have multiple pregnancies at the same time. But that's lovely because 'cause they'll be cousins the same age. It'll be fun.
Yes. Okay, now how about your kids? Are they done? Are they gonna have more?
They're done. Yeah, 3
Aw.
3 is, they're done.
Oh, well, I yeah, that's exciting times and just lots of things going on, but of course we just got to get through the next few months with this weather.
Yes,
But while people are, indoors a lot lately because of the weather, it seems like
mhm,
a lot of people are online and
I
doing,
agree.
online shopping or you know, going through all their finances online and they're virtually meeting each other, so that kind of leads to today's topic of being safe and secure.
I
And
agree.
Debbie, what are we
Yeah.
going to be talking about with this topic?
Well, I have just, the older I get, the more I learn. And I have several friends and unfortunately a few clients that have been subjected to fraud and scams. And so I actually had a client tell me last week, I feel like I lean on you quite a bit. And it wasn't necessarily about her financial situation. And I love the fact that she knew that she could do that. But I thought, okay, this is something important that we need to discuss because you are correct. I mean, people are on social media more because of the
Mhm.
weather and being indoors more often, which leads to quite a few situations. Plus, we tend to be trusting
Mm.
often,
Yes.
too trusting. And so I kind of want to cover a few bases of what do you need to look for? What's the difference between fraud and scam? Because I think once you understand that, that kind of helps you know what to look for.
Well, and let's start there because, fraud and scam, they're kind of used pretty often and they seem to overlap each other.
They
So,
do.
do they overlap each other and kind of tell us the difference?
Good. Fraud is any trick to steal your money or your personal information. There can be privacy invasion in that. And there are several ways that that is done. Scam tends to be just one type. And that is, they often look like text or emails, and they look legitimate. And that seems to be what the people that I've encountered lately, that seems to be what they're encountering most often. Because unfortunately, a lot of people spend a lot of time figuring out how to scam you out of your money
Mhm.
or your personal information. And I'm sure quite a few people have gotten warnings, okay, your information has been accessed, your social security number has been accessed. And a lot of that is because of scams.
So are scams like in a way a lower level of fraud?
It can appear that way, but
Okay.
unfortunately, once they have your personal information, it's not really considered lower level. For example,
Yeah.
if they access your banking information, that can be devastating. And so scams can, in in some respect, I think it's more personal,
Okay.
because they come after you personally. And it's becoming more and more difficult to actually catch that. So one of
Mhm.
the things that I want to talk about is, what are the ways that you can help protect yourself, and what should you be looking for?
Yeah. Well, give us a little story before we move on here. Give
Okay.
us a story of a client who have has maybe, accidentally clicked the wrong button or accidentally
Right.
been too trusting and wanted to log into their Facebook or whatever it is. So tell us a little bit of a story.
Well, I do have a client a brilliant, brilliant business person, and had retired, probably 15, 20 years before this happened. So was not in the mainstream of dealing with business. And I think sometimes that kind of leads you to being, you know, perhaps less careful because you're just
Mhm.
not in that business mode. But actually called us and wanted to access funds that, we had helped him arrange. And we obviously wanted to know why. Not that I'm being nosy, but I
Mhm.
do want to help clients protect. Plus, depending on why they need money, do they need to turn on an income, or is it, just kind of a one time hit?
Mhm.
So I advise them on how best to do that. But he could not share very much information with us. In fact, would not share very much information. Just said, "No, too good of opportunity to pass up, and and I got to have it today."
Mhm.
And that immediately sent up red flags.
Mhm.
The fact that you cannot share that information with your financial advisor is a big red flag. Went to his bank, and they offered the same advice we had. Okay, let's look into this a little bit more. This sounds a little bit shady. Sounds too good to be true. And he did not take our advice or the bank's advice.
Mhm.
Next day, found out that it was a lottery scam, and they had convinced him that he was going to be, the recipient of millions of dollars. And we were able to protect what he had, that we would set up for him, but the
Mhm.
bank had not. And he had actually had to leave a small amount in there just to keep his account active. And after being with this bank for 50 years, they said, "You did not trust us. You did not take our advice. So we need you to take the little bit of money you have left with us and find another bank." Uh,
Wow.
so, I guess one of my first words of advice is, if you have a trusted financial advisor and they advise you to, let's do a little bit more research into this, please take their advice.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that I feel most strongly about is helping protect my clients. And,
Mhm.
after my late husband died, I kind of discovered just how many people are out there that are looking for a quick way to make money. And,
So
people that are more susceptible.
yeah, and I just wanna go back to what you just said, Debbie, about being quick and
Yes.
how it needs to be a now thing. And I
Yes.
think, as we go into now talking about kind of the things to look for, I think the
Mm.
number one thing is people needing stuff instantly, right?
Yes.
It's like, "I
Big red
need your
flag.
numbers now. I'm gonna call you right now. I'm gonna" it's quick, 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 and they push you super
Mhm.
fast. And I think that that's the number one red flag to look for.
I agree. I agree. That's a big red flag. Uh, I've always been, if you push me, I'm going to walk away.
Yeah.
But too many people, that's a sales technique that a lot of people will use.
Mhm.
And I just say, especially in retirement years, moving quickly isn't always the best advice. So I
Right.
think step back, trust your instincts. If there's a red
Mhm.
flag, it's there for a reason.
Yeah.
And I think too often we don't rely on those instincts.
Mhm. Yeah, so you're absolutely right, and I think when it's a sales technique because it doesn't give you
Yeah,
time to think,
that's right.
right? And you're just trying to and in a way, it's kind of being a people pleaser,
I
right? So you
agree.
think about like, "Oh, this person's asking for this. Well, if they want it now, I'm gonna do it now, right? I'm gonna
Mhm.
please them. I want to satisfy what they're asking me for, right?"
That's right.
And so what other red flags do you think that we should look for?
Well, for one thing, if they have called you, or if they have emailed you or texted you, if they have contacted you and they are asking you to click on their links, on their URLs, on their particular sites, big
Mhm.
red flag. Call me on this number. That's a big red flag. For example, if they call you and say that someone has accessed your credit card and they need to help you check out and protect you from this theft, and
Mhm.
they want you to click on anything, or they want you to you know give you personal information, that's a huge red flag. Pull
Mhm.
out your credit card, call the number on the back of the credit card. um, After George died, I actually had someone send me a send me a link that looked like an official bank. I mean, a
Mhm.
well-known national bank,
Mhm.
proving that there was this much money in the account, and they just needed, they needed me to send them money because they couldn't access theirs. And when you clicked on it, which I did not click on it, but you know, the police actually got involved in this. And so they were doing the clicking. It looked like an active site, but
Mhm.
it wouldn't go any further. And so when you went to the actual bank site and clicked in their information, there was no client, there was no customer with that name, there was no social security with that, none of that information. But man, it looked exactly like the bank's website.
Wow.
So if it's something that they are sending you and providing for you, don't click on it.
Mhm.
Check the actual source and make sure that it is a real source. Often looking at the font that they use, you'll catch it.
Hmm.
For example, the A. If the A is typed differently on the official site versus what the scammers are sending you, it looks like the real thing, but they
Oh.
will change the font. So it looks like you're actually looking up the official thing. I've
Mhm.
actually seen one where it looked like it was the IRS. And it
Mhm.
wasn't the actual government's IRS. It was a mimicry, and the font was different. So it's sad that we have to be that particular, but my advice is always go to the original source.
Yeah.
uh, Look at that, use their number to call, don't use the number that someone has given you. Certainly if they're asking for your PIN number or your social security
Mhm.
number or your credit card or account number, don't share that with them. Banks are not going to ask for your PIN number. They
Mhm.
are not going, if it's the actual bank or the financial institute, or you know the company, whether it is, a clothing manufacturer, whatever, they're going to have that account number. They're going to have that information. And even asking if verifying it, don't give them the last four of
Mhm.
your social security. Go to the original source and check with them.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, and I think that that's a good point. We talk about getting a second opinion on your
Mhm.
finances. Well, get a second opinion on anything that you do with your finances,
I agree.
anything that you're talking about logging into something or someone, sends you a message saying that you got hacked or that you're whatever you bring up, Debbie, get a second opinion on it. Go to
I
the
agree.
source. And I think it's also
Mhm.
important to note that you briefly touched on it, but I just want to highlight it a bit is that if you get something, from an email address or a phone number, and then they're having you either email or call a different phone number, red flag,
Mhm.
right? If someone is sending you a text off of a phone number and they ask you to call a different number, absolutely do not,
I
because
agree.
that means that they are, mass sending out that text message and they're
Mhm.
just hoping for someone to reply.
That's right. And
And
often, if you click on it, they're downloading malicious software.
uh-huh.
So clicking on an unknown site, especially through emails in that respect, you need to check with the original source, because if
Mhm.
you're clicking on a response back to a text or an email and you click on it, that can often give them access to your phone or your computer, and they'll download malicious software, or they will have access to passwords or
Yeah.
personal information.
Yeah, absolutely. And, scammers and people, they've gotten really smart. At the
Yes,
end of
they
the
have.
day, it's really sad how smart things have gotten and
Hmm.
how it's super hard to tell. It
Yes, it
truly
is.
is. But I will tell you, everyone that you go to, whether you go to the bank, whether you go to the police, like you said, Debbie,
Mm,
whether you, go to verify this information, no one will ever make you feel bad for verifying.
that's right.
And that's what we need to make clear is that if if you need to verify through the bank and you need to call them and say, "Hey, this seems a little fishy to me," no one will ever get mad at you
Yeah,
for doing that.
they will applaud you for that.
Yes.
I mean, they give you a pat on the back because it's happening far too often,
Yes.
and in fact, they get frustrated if you don't ask them. That's why
Yeah.
they're there.
Mhm.
Banks and financial institutes and financial advisors are there to help you. And a good financial advisor can help you with that. I mean,
Mhm.
I've checked sites for clients because the last thing I want is to find out that they've been scammed.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. I mean, banks and people are hiring,
Hmm.
employees for this purpose
Yes,
because
they are.
it's so rampant. And, you hear about all these stories, and we just want to make sure that your clients, Debbie, and listeners and viewers, that you aren't one of these people because
That's
it
right.
can, ultimately become a reality. And we just don't want that. We want to
Yeah.
prevent that.
Well, I mean, phishing is a a term that's thrown
Hmm.
quite a bit. And when I was doing a little bit of research for this, I discovered that 3.4 billion phishing emails are sent each day.
Wow. Wow.
That's a lot of attempts to defraud, scam, and
Yep.
steal from people. 3.4 billion every day. And
Hmm.
that doesn't include text or social media. That's just
Hmm.
emails that are going out.
Hmm.
So these are full-time jobs of people trying to steal from you.
Hmm.
Um, it really breaks my heart.
And
Along with finance, romance is a huge, huge way that people
yes.
are being scammed.
Yes.
Um,
Have you watched those documentaries on Netflix?
yes.
Oh, yes. Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
And unfortunately, I personally know a few people that have been completely scammed out of
Yeah.
this. And one of the first pieces of advice that I can give you is if your friends and family or your financial advisors are giving you warning signs of please double check this just sounds too good to be true, they're not trying to insult you.
Mhm,
They're not trying to imply that no, you're not good looking enough to to actually have this person interested in you, or that you're not interesting enough or successful enough. But if people are warning you, this doesn't sound right,
mhm,
you need to listen to them and look
mhm.
into it. I mean, perhaps you're correct, but you owe it to yourself to double check, because there are people out there that are just very, very good at convincing people that this is the new love of their life.
Mhm,
And especially a widow or a widower or someone that's gone through a divorce, they're
mhm,
hurting, they're lonely, they are dealing with some emotional issues. And if someone
mhm,
can come in and feed that and lift you up and make you feel better about yourself, it can make you easy prey. And so that greatly concerns me. If you have someone that's actually trying to do that and you've never physically met them, that's a huge red flag.
yes.
I mean, if you meet with them, please don't meet with them for the first time alone. You need to meet with someone, especially if you're trying to do dating site, scene or something along that. Don't be
So
vulnerable.
yeah. So I'm gonna just tell you a story. So my
Oh, good.
fiance that I'm now marrying, we met on Tinder. And we met completely online because that's supposedly the
Hmm.
new way to meet people, which I understand. I mean, I know firsthand it
Yep,
can be hard to meet people. And in online dating, it's a great tool.
I agree.
But I do say use with caution. And
Yes.
you know where our first date was? Shields.
Oh,
Have you ever heard of Shields?
yes, I have.
That is where I told him that we would meet because I was
Smart.
like, I wanna make sure it's a public place. I
I
wanna
agree.
make sure that, no one's tracking. You don't even know what vehicle I'm getting out of, right? Because
Hmm.
we're gonna meet, in the store. You're meet somewhere like that where people can't get your license plate number, they can't get your ID, they can't get your credit card because it can happen.
Yes, it can. That
And
was a
just be
smart place
smart.
to move.
Yeah.
There are people there to
So
protect you.
so listeners and viewers, go to Shields. If you have
That's
a Shields
smart.
near you, go there.
That's smart. I mean, it's a wonderful tool. I have no problem with social media. Well, I mean, I shouldn't say no problem. I have no problem with people meeting people. For
Yes.
example, I have family across the United States. I
Mhm.
no longer live in the state where I went to high school and college.
Yeah.
And social media, man, has been wonderful. In fact, that's one of the ways that my husband now and I reconnected
Yeah.
was through social media. And so it can be wonderful. You
Mhm.
just need to do it with caution and
Mhm.
make some smart choices.
Yep.
And you certainly want to let your loved ones know, okay, this is where I'm going. This is,
Yes.
what I'm doing. Um,
And I'm
I
really
just think that's smart.
Yeah, and Debbie, that brings up a good point. I'm an iPhone user,
I am
and
too.
I know you are, and I'm not sure about our listeners and viewers, but, I'm familiar with Find My iPhone or Find My Friends,
Hmm.
right? And that's another way to be careful about
Yes.
who has your location, but also be okay with certain people having it
Yes.
possibly because I know like my parents and we all share each other's locations. And
Mhm.
some people are like, you have, your parents have your location. Yeah, they do
Yes.
because I believe it's a safety thing,
I
and
agree.
so but you don't want to just make sure that everybody,
I
be
agree.
careful and be particular about who has it, but be smart about it because it can be a useful tool.
I agree. Oh, listen, my husband, he has GPS on everything that I own and trackers of where are
Yes.
you going and who
Yes.
are you with. I do the same thing. And it's a great idea to include your parents or someone else. For
Yeah.
example, if you and your fiance are together,
Yeah.
that doesn't do you any good if,
Yeah.
for example, your car is out and you're both together. So I think that that's very smart, and there's some wonderful tools out there. So
Mhm.
take advantage of those things.
Mhm.
um it just it breaks my heart that we have to think about those things because
Uh-huh.
I tend to be an optimist. I tend to think the best of people, but at the same time I'm also a realist.
Mhm.
um Experiencing my eyes were opened after George died of, woo,
Mhm.
okay, there's a lot going on that I just had no clue about.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I didn't fall victim to those, but it did open my eyes up to, wow, there's a lot going on that I never realized. And, one of the big reasons why I do what I do, because I try to pay it forward by helping people protect not only their finances, but in this case perhaps their emotions,
Yeah.
or physically their life, because if you meet the wrong person, not in shields,
Yeah.
you do put yourself at risk. So it's just a lot to consider, and being aware.
Yeah.
uh, for example, do not walk down a sidewalk or even in the mall staring at your phone the whole time.
Yes.
um
The texting and
the
walking,
texting
it's
while
the
you're
same
walking.
thing as texting and driving, okay? I just have to put that out there.
Yeah. I mean, people have died by walking into a pillar because they were
Yes!
texting a while phone. Pretty, you
Yes.
should not be doing that. You need to
Mhm.
focus where you're going. I tend to be kind of a klutz, so I need to look where I'm walking,
Oh, yeah. Stairs? Oh, don't my phone will be aware. If I am on the stairs, my phone will not be out. It will not be
Yeah.
seen because I need to focus on going down the stairs. I'm already
Yes.
gonna trip as it is.
Or up the stairs.
Or up the stairs.
Perhaps that's why we get along so well.
Yes. Yes, I think yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, if I fall on the stairs, at least get video of me, is
I
all I
agree.
ask. Oh,
I'm okay with that.
well, Debbie, this has been a fantastic episode, and I just wanna remind our listeners, our our podcasts will be posted on Apple, Spotify, and Amazon, and they're also on YouTube, so you can
Yes.
watch our beautiful faces. Retirement Your Way, and we post weekly, and we love to have you comment, topics. We love to hear
Mhm.
and listen to what you guys want to talk about. And I know that this topic was even asked about or,
Yes.
recommended. And so we love to hear from you. So subscribe so you can be notified when our episodes are out. Debbie, is there anything else you want to add?
Uh, Probably the best way to reach me is through my office, 1-866-247-5695. You can also email or text, and we also have a Facebook page. So feel free. And I'd love to get, what would you like us to discuss?
Yeah.
Because sometimes we get tunnel vision, and I think some of our best ideas come from the public.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Yeah, we can chat about anything.
Uh,
So, whether it's finances or now scams or life or whatever you want to hear. But truly life, whether it's finances or what we're talking about today,
mhm.
scams, it's a balancing act. I
Yes,
think
it
we
is.
should get some sort of balance beam or a seesaw here. But it's so important to have an expert in your corner, get a second opinion, and be safe. Do some research and talk to the right people because you can't go wrong without double checking.
I agree. I
So,
agree. Thank
all
you.
right. Well, thank you, Debbie.